Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Eileen from Partipost Malaysia, and I will be your host for today. If you have yet to about us, Partipost is one of the fastest growing influencer marketing platform in Asia. And we aim to help brands like you connect with people to create word of mouth advertising through social media. Suppose you are interested to learn how to run efficient and effective campaigns today. In that case, you are definitely in for a treat, as we'll be sharing some of the top case studies of different types from various industries. If you have run or interested in running your own influencer campaign for the brand, then this session will definitely be able to give you an idea on how to weave influencer marketing into your strategy. But before we jump into that, the digital world is steadily growing and shifting every day. It can be a tricky road to navigate. This can be exceptionally true for most marketers. How can we stay on the top of the ever-evolving trend and tapping into new platforms to find the right audience and connect with them in an authentic way and to convert them into loyal customers? Just think about the number of social media platforms that have popped up just in the last decade. There's no denying that the internet, and most especially social media, has become an essential part of our everyday life, more so after the pandemic. Who now doesn't have at least one Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter account? With the digital acceleration, brands have certainly caught on to these developments. Whether they like it or not, nearly every brand is active on social media, and I believe you guys as well. In the efforts to follow where consumers are spending most of their time, in fact, it's actually 2 hours and 27 minutes to be exact, consuming behavior-changing content from our Partipost Southeast Asia 2021 annual report. We actually got this insight. And yet, all these only add to the challenges we have as marketers. With millions of active users every day, thousands of brands going online, and hundreds of platforms to communicate and connect, how do we find the suitable method that genuinely works and guarantees the best return of investment? One strategy that worked so far in this regard, I will have to say it's influencer marketing. The continuous boom of social media over the past 2 decades and a rise of 22.55 million active users have brought an influx of influencers into the scene. And it's showing no signs of slowing down, with a projected market value of 15 billion within this year itself. But influencer marketing impact also goes beyond just numbers. With many of today's successful and forward-facing brands, just like in the likes of Esma Nasaruddin from Gigi and also Helen Tan from Doublewood, to just name a few. They rely on continuous integration of influencer marketing, content creation, and social media to remain relevant in today's age. As we continuously move into a digital-first world, securing this longevity is of utmost importance, which is why the power of community becomes more influential than ever to create real, long-lasting connections, and the most important thing, trust between brands and consumers. So in just a few short years, global lifestyle and economies have changed, which means consumer habits have changed, which also means that the marketing landscape is no longer a place we used to know. This is undoubtedly present ample opportunities for brands to tap into. But again, the challenge still remains. How can we best leverage and optimize all these factors to serve our interests and reach our goals? How do you leverage influencer marketing to be ahead of the game and ride the wave to success? At Partipost, we made it our mission to strategize precisely that, and particularly to harness the power of everyday people to help brands to create impactful and cost-effective campaigns and enable them to activate influencers with skill and with speed I think this is the two things that I would want to drive home. That Partipost, we actually activate influencers with scale and with speed. With word of mouth marketing driving 6 trillion in annual global spending and is responsible for 13% of sales. How can you not only want to take a bite of the pie, but how do you also benefit for your brand's objective and also to reaching your KPIs? Since our beginnings in Singapore in 2016, influencer marketing has been Partipost's life and blood. We've been expanding our mission throughout Southeast Asia with bases in Malaysia, Taiwan, Indonesia, and Philippines, and we have more than 600,000 influencers in our database. But we also take on influencer marketing in an easier and more streamlined approach than traditional methods, primarily through our combination of tech and talent. Whatever your goals are with each campaign, we utilize our state-of-art tech to find just the right influencer to get your messages out to the right audience, and all within a few clicks. Here's a closer look at what we've been doing so far in collaboration with other brands across industries. But just before that, I would like to invite two other guests to join me on this panel discussion as we dig a little bit deeper into influencer marketing strategies by examining case studies and also their successes. And the most important question, how can it be replicated for your brand and drive the same or even more engagement? I'd like to cordially invite Felicia Leong, our Business Development Director, and also Ken Goh, the Operations Team Lead from Partipost Malaysia. Welcome. Are you guys nervous? Morning.
Good morning, everyone.
No, it's just a casual chat, right?
Yes, it's definitely a casual chat. So, and I believe that both of you guys will do just fine because you guys are the expert in your own ways. So please do enlighten us today and share with us some of the tips and tricks on how we can actually run an effective and efficient marketing campaign. But just before we get the ball rolling, right? Any of you in the audience can also send in your questions via the QR code on the screen, and we will actually answer them at the end of the webinar. So just a little bit recap, before I actually bombard the two guests with questions. In Partipost, we have run almost 300 campaigns across the past year, across industry. To ensure you have the best learning experience, we have actually split the case study discussion into 4 types. So basically, the first type will be mass campaign. The second one will be simple and easy to execute campaigns. The third one will be FMCG campaigns. Last but not least is actually the customizable public campaigns. So starting from the top, we will look into mass campaigns first. So hi, Felicia. Would you like to share a little bit about the first campaign that you'll be fleshing out today?
Sure, happy to do that. But before I proceed, we're not experts. Education is a learning curve in a lifetime, so we just help to share ideal concepts for every brand to achieve their objective. So SSF is really a very simple campaign. As you can see, what it really is engaging hundreds of people with a very simple task to help SSF share their brand promotion, which is the VIP membership, as well as the in-stores that they want everyday people to know.
Okay, so what do you think is the success tip for this campaign? And because it's a mass campaign, so how can other brands replicate this success? Felicia, do you want to go first?
Sure. How Partipost defines success is really through the efficiency, in which this case is the speed and the scale of running an influencer campaign. We believe that these 2 elements will be able to capture the audience as well as meet the brand objectives. But of course, for every campaign, there will be different tasks, different deliverables in order to achieve the objective. This particular campaign aims to drive the awareness of their promotion in the shortest period of time, because the promotion period is very, very time sensitive and it has to be done as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. Now, with our Partipost platform, we actually can help activate a large group of people in a very short period of time and share about this special promotion and launch it ASAP to let people know, about the promotion as soon as possible. Of course, it also helped that this campaign used a very, very simple task where they just needed to share it with their friends and families on their social media account.
Okay, this sounds like a seeding activation that traditionally marketers has always been doing. But what is your take on that, Kat?
I think like what Felicia mentioned, right? I think campaigns like this, when it comes to mass campaign, right, it's always time sensitive and it's always more about the reach, about the awareness. So I think the success measure that we use here, right, is actually how many packs, how many influencers can we actually target within the timeline given. Like how many packs can we fulfill within, let's say, 1 to 2 months. Yeah, this is how we normally measure our success for mass campaign like this.
Okay. If that be the case, right, what do you think? I mean, because essentially when it comes to influencer marketing, we have run like different types. Like today, we are actually showing four different types of different influencer campaign. What is the benefit of running a mass campaign? Ken, do you want to chime in first?
Yep. I think mainly the benefits we see for mass campaign is mainly increasing the brand awareness on social media. I mean, since currently at our time, I think it's the easiest way to reach out to consumer nowadays. And I think we all know how important social media is nowadays, especially for marketing. So I think taking the SSM campaign as example, right? So it actually works as a seeding activation to drive mass awareness. So we believe um the more times a person come across the same content, it actually increases the chance of conversion.
Okay, okay. I think it's similar to, running a billboard on the busy street. So instead of,
Mhm.
having a static billboard which is on just next to the street, maybe MR2 or Federal Highway, we actually use people instead. So with that, do you have anything else to add on that, Felicia? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. So for SSF, what this actually helped them do is, aside from getting eyeballs and awareness with the seeding campaign, right, it's actually helping them reach out to the consumers directly, the end users who would be purchasing the product. So by doing a seeding campaign, chances are the more times you bump into that particular post, and it comes across with higher chances of conversion as well as brand adoption.
I think this is very much in line. I think whatever that you guys shared, the more they actually come across, the more easily them being converted. I think this is aligned with the marketing rule of seven. It's something that I have been taught throughout my entire experience working as a marketer. I think you definitely cannot assume that if a consumer actually sees your ad for one time, you don't expect conversion. But the more times they see it, it will become like a top of mind kind of thing. So then they will actually remember. Okay, I think that's great. Okay, you mentioned like mass campaigns are time sensitive, but I believe that not all are time sensitive. But what is a healthy timeline to run a mass influencer marketing campaigns? Like there are so many profiles, right? Won't the approval process take a long time? Ken, would you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think let me start a little bit with like how our current timeline is looking like. So currently, I think I'll just break it down to two category. Category one would be campaign with 200 to 500 people, and then type two will be campaign with 500 to 1,000 people. So for the first type of campaign, right, with 200 to 500 people, so we always take at least 1 to 1.5 months to fulfill the entire campaign. And then for campaign type two, which is the 500 to 1,000 packs, so we'll take around 1.5 to 2 months. But then again, the team is actually constantly learning and upgrading. So this timeline is actually like a benchmark for us as of now. So it's getting shorter as we speak. I think in regards to the next question for approval process, right, I think it is currently okay because normally for campaigns like this, there's only one or maximum two tasks for mass campaign. So we're also actually actively working on automating the approval. It used to be a lot of manual work at the start, like we have to maybe approve the profile one by one, manually, task by task. But then again, we are actually actively improving our process, starting by having auto approval for the engagement task. Yeah.
I think that's very helpful. I think previously when I actually run my own influencer campaign in previous agencies, right? I actually come across times when we actually need to do a lot of manual work, reaching out on our own, approving one by one, and also follow upping. So I think with the automation process that Partipost has, definitely be able to make it a little bit more time efficient as well. And at the same time, meeting our objective and goals. I think that's a very good point that you actually shared there, Ken. But on that note, with all the successes that you have ran with SSF, who and what other industries do you think can actually replicate this? Maybe you want to go with Felicia first?
Yeah, sure. For campaigns that want to activate a large group of people in the shortest period of time, this actually would work well with verticals like FMCG, F&B, as well as retail.
Okay. Ken, do you have a different answer? Or
I think
do you?
my answer is pretty much similar with what Felicia has just answered, because these are the everyday brand that consumers are more familiar with. So I think it helps when it comes to getting enough profiles, enough submissions, and things like that.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think that will be the end of the first type. The next type of campaign that we will be tackling, it's actually simple and easy to execute campaigns, which is slightly different from the mass. I would say it's a bit the same and not the same at the same time. They are generally campaigns, that are not too complicated and do not require the influencers to spend too much of their time performing a particular action. Right, like what Ken has mentioned, mass campaign, you maybe generally only have one or two tasks. So I will believe, when you guys actually highlight the two other campaigns, it will be similar in that sense. So I'm actually curious about the campaigns that you have for us today, Felicia and Ken. And I know you're not just sharing only one, you're going to share two. So would you just walk us briefly through the case studies that you'll be sharing with us today?
Yep, sure. So there are two campaigns that we're sharing. First is Ninja Van, the other one is Taylor's University. And like what you mentioned, it's similar, but not exactly the same because the execution is different as well as the objective is different. For Ninja Van, this particular campaign was about promoting their hassle-free delivery. And how they went about doing it was, with the rising Korean drama popularity, they actually created their own drama video, depicting how a person is having drama in their life with their parcel delivery. All building back to the objective is, delivery is really not a drama. You really should enjoy hassle-free delivery from a very trustworthy and reputable brand, which is what Ninja Van is aiming to achieve.
Before we just move on to the next one, I just want to chime in about the Ninja Van. I've seen the ad, and like you say, it's very Korean drama-ish, and we all know Malaysians love our Korean drama, but we don't like the drama when it comes to our courier services. So
Not our life,
yes.
for sure.
yes, definitely. Okay, you mentioned there's two, so
Yes.
okay.
So the other one is Taylor's University. This is again similar, but not exactly the same. So this is a Raya campaign we did for them, where they were sharing a very heartfelt and emotionally driven video. So the entire message of sharing this video is about how you can educate the underprivileged in the non-conforming charitable way, where it's all about money. So you can actually do charity by educating someone and teaching and sharing the message to others. So this campaign really is helping others, helping one another, which is a form of charity as well, and not just limited to monetary. So both are seeding campaign as well as awareness, but it's really very much resharing to their own friends and families to help the brand send the message out.
Okay, if that be the case, thank you for sharing. What is the main KPI that is required to hit for this campaign? Ken, would you want to start first?
Yeah, I think like what Felicia mentioned earlier, right? I think the video content given by Ninja Van was so interesting. So what we were trying to do is actually trying to boost the reach and views of that video and try to make it viral so that everybody is actually looking at the video. Yeah, that's basically what we are trying to do here.
Okay. Felicia, anything else to add?
Yeah, like Ken says, because this is about sharing a video, so priority for the brand really is the view and the reach, as opposed to your traditional engagement rates.
Okay. And I would suppose that is not the usual engagement reach that people look for. But it depends on what.
Yeah,
okay.
Because this is, after all, not an organic content. It's a content that is created by a brand, and the objective is to really viralize it.
Okay, noted. Viral is the one. Okay, then I'm actually very interested because why would you use everyday people instead of profiles with high following in this particular case? Ken?
I think first of all, I think the audiences of everyday people, comparing to the KOLs, the macro, the megas that you see on a daily basis, right? I think the main difference is that the audiences that they have. For let's say KOLs, right, their content is mainly viewed by the followers, their followers. However, for everyday people, right, the people that are actually viewing their content is mainly their friends and family. So for everyday people, it's always someone that is closer to them. So something we always believe is that if you are seeing a content posted by your friends and family, right, it sort of create more credibility for the brand itself, because you'll feel like, oh, so people around me are actually using this product, people around me are actually using this service, so it must be good. So yeah, this is the mindset we believe in. That's why we chose to go with everyday people instead of the KOLs.
Okay, because now that I'm actually looking at both of the case studies, um Ninja Van, they actually required 200 influencers, and Taylor's also required 200 influencers, which will actually lead to my next question. With the amount of profiles needed for these two cases, have you come across, bots or profiles that, that actually buy followers? And I believe that there will be. So what do party posts do, or what do you do when you come across cases like this?
I think it's probably a universal problem now. Like everyone is trying to chase for opportunities in the digital world. So it's starting to become a norm for influencers to actually buy followers or even engagement sometimes. So what the Paripos way we are doing is actually, when we are reviewing the profiles, right, we'll always avoid picking profiles with, let's say, bot followers or maybe fake engagements. So the profiles that always attract us is mainly profiles with a good engagement rate, and then profile that is aesthetic enough. So I think our marketing team is always constantly educating our party posters as well about having a healthy balance of organic and paid posts on their feed. Because I think for some of the clients, right, if they look at your profile and then see, okay, maybe I think maybe 7 out of your top nine posts, right, is actually paid or sponsored posts, right. Sometimes they will just prefer not to go with profile like this because they want a more organic type of profile.
Mm, okay, that's really some insight there. I think people who are not at the back end who actually runs influencer campaign will not actually know about this. So thank you for sharing, Ken. Looking at these two campaigns, the contents are very attractive. I would say that it resonates with people because of it touches on trend, it touches on emotions, right? Felicia, I would be very interested to know, like, with these two campaigns, right, what would you recommend to actually make it even more effective?
So as you highlighted earlier about the marketing rule of seven, right? It actually needs to touch, each brand needs to touch the consumer at least 7 times. In fact, in this today's world, right, to be honest, I think you need more than 7 times with all the various social media platforms that are up. And above all, the clutter of new feeds that you will see every single day. So it is therefore very important that influencer marketing is not a one-off campaign, and it should be seen and done frequently for people to actually remember it. So not above that, right? Running a consistent and frequent campaign with also different and creative contents, right? It actually keeps the brand at the top of the mind of consumers, and again, leading to brand loyalty as well as to brand adoption.
Okay, so if I were to understand what you're trying to say correctly is, does this mean that, like Ninja Van's seeding campaign, it should be a prolonged time, or are you talking like there should be a phase one, phase two kind of thing?
It should be a phase one, phase two with a different kind of content, so that when people see it, they don't get bored with the same content. It's a different content, but the Ninja Van brand name is still at the top of their mind.
Okay, okay. So I guess that will be it. I think, if audience from the floor, you have any other questions regarding to any of the types of campaigns that we have shared, please share it. Please scan the QR code and definitely send your questions in. I think that will be it for type 2. Now we can actually move on to type 3. So For the next batch, we'll be touching on the FMCG brands, as we know that FMCG brands new brands pop up every single day. Both of the brands that you're about to share, I actually have them in my kitchen. Like, I do purchase them. I am a fan. And but over the years, because like I just mentioned, there are so many brands popping up, I just cannot stop, trying out new brands to see if I can find another alternative. I think that is what we generally do. We like to shop, we like to try new things, right? But this sponsored post, right, that I actually saw before me joining the Partipost, actually reminded me about their offerings and some of the activations they're actually doing. It actually drive top of mind for me. So I am actually interested to know, like, the two case studies that you'll be sharing today as well. And I think the first one is Good Day. So can you share with us a little bit more about Good Day?
Yeah, I think let me just share a little bit more about Good Day. So I think this campaign is very special in the sense that it's not what brands normally do. It's actually a CSR effort by Good Day to run a campaign actually tying with a product where what they are planning to do is actually hit 1,000 hashtag Good Day support orangutans. That's the name of the hashtag. So it is a pretty special campaign in the sense that no other brands actually run a CSR campaign using influencer marketing. Yeah, so that's kind of what makes the campaign a little bit different from the others.
Okay. Do we want to move on to the next one first?
So EB Frozen, thank you very much, Eileen. Glad to know that our campaign worked on you and you hit the nail by mentioning alternative. So the whole point and campaign of this EB Frozen, it was done during Chinese New Year that season. So they really wanted to drive the alternative that, ring roll is another way of you having a cozy gathering other than your typical 7-course dinner that you would have for reunion dinners. Also at that point of time, with this whole pandemic going on, it's also a good idea to have a great meal at home, enjoy with your family, and still feel safe.
I see. I think that is how the strategy actually fit the brand too. But I just want to know, like, how, what do you think about it? Like, how so? Do you want to continue on with
Sure.
EB?
So, like I mentioned, Chinese New Year revolves around food. So this is really to play about the role that you can have hot, still have a very, very long dinner and be able to chat with your friends and families during the reunion time. And it's very apt with the culture right now. We don't do the traditional stuff all the time. So with this, EB also made it a point to further, emphasize and give a little bit more noise for this campaign by running their own contest and getting our everyday people to share about the contest with them as well.
Okay. What about Good Day? Ken, what do you think?
I think again, like Good Day, it was a CSR effort, and then I think what the party posters required to do is they have to actually purchase the Good Day banana milk, and also post it on their Instagram with the hashtag of Good Day supports orangutan. So I think from the brand perspective, right, this is actually beneficial because it actually improves the brand image, and at the same time driving awareness and potentially more sales to the new product.
Okay. By any chance, have you guys tried it?
Yep, definitely. The Good Day banana milk is so good. You have to try it.
Okay, that's a shameless plug, but okay. we can then can I actually, since you were actually saying that you actually tried the product itself, I want to
Mhm,
know, because
mhm.
you are like the operations lead for Partipost Malaysia, right? So definitely every campaign, even no matter how perfect or how successful it is, there's definitely learnings. So what is your, like, major learning when it comes to running the campaigns?
I think for Good Day, right? For Good Day, I think when the brand reached out to us, we were actually quite surprised as well. I mean, because we ourselves we didn't think that okay, influencer marketing actually worked for CSR campaign as well. So, but for Good Day's case, right, it actually works for them because it sort of spreads a lot of awareness and also help them build a very good image for the brand. And for EB, right, I think it's mainly knowing that okay, consumers are looking for and launching the campaign at the right time. And I think the occasion is very important as well, as this campaign actually launched during the CNY period. Like I think like what Felicia mentioned earlier, right? I think most Chinese homes will be serving hot pot as a reunion meal. It just makes the seating more successful because it's tied to the CNY festival. So I would say that knowing your audience and launching it at the right time would be the strategy here.
Okay. I'm catching on to what you just mentioned. Targeting the right audience is very important. So, Felicia, I have this question for you. Like, I believe brands have these questions for you as well, or even not, then you try to educate them. Like, why do you think engaging the right influencers is important for different campaigns?
So the type of category of influencers that you want largely depends on the brand, as well as the products or services that they offer, along with the marketing priorities, of course. What's important really is to focus on the relevance, using influencers with a similar interest as well as their followers to actually match with the brand's objective. So for Partipost, we can actually work on specific profiles. Like for example, EB, we use a specific race profile because it's during that celebration that these race will be, having reunion dinners. We've also worked with brands, beauty brands who want people who do a lot of sharing of beauty tips on their account, on their posts. So there are various different types of profile we can work around with based on what the brand wants to achieve.
Okay. You mentioned, MCG, you mentioned beauty. So, and specifically today, because the title of this particular type is FMCG and F&B industry, can this be replicated, you think, across other social media platforms as well? Because currently what it uses is Instagram. And with
Oh,
so many
definitely.
new yeah, because there's so many new social media platforms popping up. So I just
Yeah.
want to know if we are forward enough, or like brands are forward enough to actually reach out to, new markets, new platforms.
Yeah, we definitely can do that. We can actually use the same concept, but perhaps a different kind of deliverables for Xiaohongshu. We can also change it up a little bit to make it like a video and put it onto to TikTok. So it could be done. It's just the concept could be slightly different.
Okay. Ken, is there anything you want to chime in?
I think Xiaohongshu is definitely an interesting platform that we want to look at as of now. I think it's the growing social media platform that all the youngsters are actually using. So I think running campaigns in Xiaohongshu is probably the future trend as well. So it's something that we will want to try in the future as well.
I think previously we also had a discussion that there will be always new social media platforms popping up, and just recently we came across Lemonade as well. So
Yep.
we have not run any campaigns on Lemonade, but it seemed like the target audience for Lemonade is actually more on the Malay communities. So it's actually interesting to see how the brand's going to develop and how the Malaysians are going to pick up on this trend as well. So I've so when it comes to influencer campaign, there's never a one size fits all. I think from whatever you guys have shared earlier, brands have different objectives. They have different KPIs. Hence, sometimes a customized campaign is needed to ensure that campaign delivers what the brand wants. So I've seen the deck, and I'm actually looking forward to how both of these brands run their campaign successfully. They are quite different in nature, and the platform is different as well, but it is very in line with shopping online. Felicia, would you want to take the lead in explaining the two case studies you have for us today?
Sure. So what we'll be sharing today is Jinro and Warda. So Jinro, because of the nature of the product, requires a specific group of profiles to talk about the brand. Really to incorporate ways they would incorporate this product as part of their lifestyles, whether they're having good time with their friends at home, having Jinro, or maybe having a good catch up with their friends at their restaurants. The other one is Warda. So Warda is a tactical campaign which really focuses on getting the word out for the coming 12/12 sale, and at the same time driving visits to their official store on Shopee.
Okay. What would you say is the similarities between both of these campaigns?
Okay, so both campaigns are customized according to the objectives. Jinro, because of the product, requires specific profile to share how they can incorporate it as part of their lifestyle. While Warda, it's a very much promotional campaign targeting the Muslim community because of the product USPs, as well as for the very specific occasion, which in this case is the 12/12 sales.
Okay. Okay. I was actually just going through on top of my head, like the type 1 mass campaigns, simple campaigns, and stuff like that. So, Ken, I just want to know, like, is it necessary to actually customize this particular campaign for the objective that they want to reach? What do you think?
I think for Jinro, right, it makes more sense to run a customized campaign because I think the Jinro brand and product, right, they have a very clear target audiences. Mainly it's people who are interested in alcohol. So I think it makes more sense for them to run a customized campaign. So for WADA wise, I think it's mainly running campaigns together with the sale of, let's say, 11/11 and 12/12, just tying to the shopping events that we are happening on a yearly basis.
Okay. What do you have anything else to add, Felicia, on that? Do you have a different thought?
Very much the same as Ken. Just to add on that, for Warda, we've done actually several campaigns with them, and they're all either 10, 10, 11, or 12, 12. So the contents are pushed out like 1 week before the actual sale period to help them build momentum as well as keeping the brand at the top of mind of consumers amongst all the other offerings of all the other brands who's possibly doing the 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12 promotion.
Okay. If I could recap whatever that you guys just had shared, whatever you guys have shared, that it is necessary to customize a campaign because number one, the objective is different, the target audience is different, and also the timeline is different. It's not so much of the platform, but it's because the timeline is also different. Hence, that is why it's a customizable campaign. Okay. That's great. So the result must be good for both of these brands since they've been running influencer campaign consecutively. I mean, Felicia, you shared that Warda was with us for a few months, right? Um, can you tell us a little bit more, like how can campaigns be integrated in top e-commerce sites? Because I think before the pandemic hit us, we've been shopping a lot, right, online. But with the pandemic, it just accelerated. Everybody started going to e-commerce site to actually purchase their goods. So, Ken, what do you think? Like how can whatever influencer campaigns that we are running integrate into e-commerce platforms?
I think like what you mentioned earlier, right? I think consumer behavior has actually shifted heavily to purchasing online. I mean, since the pandemic, even pre-pandemic. So I think brands that run influencer campaign on e-commerce platform, right? What they want to do is mainly driving more visibility and increase their online presence and of course sales as well. So I think in cases like this campaign that is tied to a make a purchase or product reviews online, I think it will best suit the client.
Okay. I guess this is a question I believe, both of you will be very scared to answer. But I would want to know, like, what is the industry benchmark when it comes to engagement rate for influencer marketing? Ken.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think engagement rate it differs across different tierings of influencers. I think first of all, the nano influencers tend to have a much higher engagement rate comparing to the micro and macro. So the average for nano is actually about 5 to 6%. As for micro and macro, they are very much similar. So I think definitely the micro engagement rate will be slightly higher than the macro, but it will be within the 1 to 3% range.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, because I just want to understand a little bit more, like why would it, like the higher you go, or for example, the more followers you have, the engagement rate kind of slows down? Is there a reason to it?
I think mainly it's because you have so many followers, right? So, I mean, when we calculate the ER, right, the formula is basically we take your likes and comments, shares, and then we divide by the number of followers. So it actually makes sense logically if the numbers of followers you have is higher. So definitely that means, right, the higher chances that your engagement rate will be slightly lower comparing to those that has a lesser amount of followers.
Okay. And I guess that is the reason why we actually advocate everyday people and to make sure we, help brands to maximize their ROI based on whatever budget that they have as well. Okay. Okay. So based on these two customized campaigns, I believe there will be brands out there who will be, interested to know because it is definitely a type of, it's a very unique type of campaign. And most brands will be most probably thinking whether or not they can actually use it for their own brand. So I just want to hear from the horse's mouth, right? From both of you guys. Like, what do you think what other industries would benefit from this as well? Felicia?
Yep, sure. To be honest, customized campaigns can work for any industry because as it says, customized, you really work it according to your industry. So if it's like a beauty or skincare, it could work on any of the SKUs, whether it's anti-aging, whether it's sensitive skin, or it's baby food or baby items. We look for parents. Health food, we'll look for maybe gym buffs or people who are very active in outdoor activities and so forth. So it really depends on the target profile. We can just work around changing the concept and the ideas to help the brand achieve their objectives.
What do you think, Ken?
I think we welcome clients from any industry to actually run a customized campaign with us, because I think I'm quite confident that our BD team can actually craft out a proposal that suits your brand. So I think any industry is actually welcome.
Okay. And then if I were to, take note of what Felicia has shared earlier, I think both of you guys mentioned it's actually suitable for all industries. I think the most important thing is knowing the objective, hence then we'll be able to actually conceptualize a particular campaign for them, right? So do you think, like in this case, I mean, one is from the BD team, business development, and one is from the operations team. Would you be able to share a little bit, like, for example, a particular client were to touch base with you, right? What is the kind of communication or the processes that we actually do to ensure that we are able to craft something out based on the objective that they're trying to meet? This is maybe Felicia, you want to start first?
Based on the objective that they want to achieve.
Like for example, you have a new client that comes to you, and then they will tell you, my objective is awareness, for example. But for an anti-aging product, and I'm looking for someone 40 years and above. So how would that communication process be to make sure that you're able to craft out the not perfect but good enough campaign that will actually hit their KPIs?
Okay, so first and foremost, we need to really clearly define what the KPI is and what the objective is. We'll have a very thorough discussion to understand then their target audience. After which, we'll come up with some plans and some ideas, run it by them, and see if they're actually okay with the particular ROIs that we've shared with them. So it's really very much communication prior to the campaign launch, during the campaign period, together with the ops team, as well as post-campaign.
Okay. All right. I guess that concludes the part 2. So part 2 was actually going through the type of campaigns that you can actually run on your platform, based on some of the case studies and some of the successes that we have. So thank you, Felicia and Ken, for sharing these details with us, and also sharing with us how we can actually replicate them into our own marketing strategy. It was definitely very insightful, and I'm not sure if everyone can see the pattern, but the fun doesn't stop here. We will actually move on to the next segment. So I would actually consider this as the essence of today's webinar, as I believe both of them will be sharing, the Partipost hacks and also recommendations on how, marketers like yourself can actually run effective and also efficient campaigns, right? So let's start with the first question. Since we've already talked about the case studies, I think with all the information that you shared at the back of our head, there are actually some questions that I would like to pose to both of you guys. First, I think this question would be to Felicia, because I want to understand, right? You spoke about successful campaigns that Partipost run over the past years. What are some of the Partipost key differentiator? What do you think is our USP?
So first and foremost, Partipost, we're not an agency. We're an influencer marketing ad platform, and what that really does is help brand reach out to the everyday people to talk about their brand through word of mouth marketing, and we can actually do that at speed and launch campaigns at speed with the help of the platform. We can do like hundreds, we can launch by hundreds, like thousands of nanos to create story for the brand, to share the content on their social media within, say, days or weeks. And that is supported through our app. So This actually allows the brands to actually reach directly to the consumer from the everyday, with the everyday people.
Okay. And then, you know, earlier in the discussion, we talked about how Partipost actually define efficiency and effectiveness of a particular campaign. And we talk about, scale, and we talk about speed, like, but based on experience itself, what is actually the most effective way to run an influencer campaign? And what is the right way to measure this kind of results? Ken, do you want to start first this round?
Yeah, I think there isn't like the most effective way to run an influencer campaign. It is always depending on the brand's objective. So I think we always suggest a different types of campaign based on the different objectives. So for example, right, if the client wants to increase the brand awareness, so we'll suggest them to go with mass campaign. So if the client wants to drive more purchases, more sales, we'll suggest them to run a campaign that actually requires our party persons to buy and review the product. So and I think end of the day, most importantly is we will actually tailor-made a campaign based on the brand objective. And also, yeah, I think target audience is also very important. So basically, to summarize, right, I think brand objective and target audience is two of the things that we mainly look at when we are proposing a new influencer campaign.
Hmm. Okay. I think that's very insightful, but Felicia, you are nodding your head. So do you
Yeah.
have anything else to add, or do you agree to whatever Ken has shared?
Yeah, similar, to, very similar to Ken, depending on the brand's objective and which group of people they want to target, whether it's for awareness, whether it's for interest, whether it's for demand or driving a specific action. After knowing that, you would know a firm why and why you want to do this. So then the campaign and the content direction will be working towards that particular outcome.
Okay. I think earlier there was actually a second question. What is the right way to measure results? But I think depending on different objective, there's a different way to measure results. So just looking at the different types that we have, let me just recollect my thoughts. So we have the first type, which is mass campaign. So I believe the best way to measure results will be view and also reach. Correct?
Yep,
Okay.
that's right.
Yep.
Assuming then we talk about the customized campaign with Jinro and Warda. Can you also just like chip in, like, what is the best way, or what is the right way to actually measure this for Jinro and Warda specifically?
Yeah, I think for Jinro and Vada, first of all, I think the reach is still important, but mainly we'll also see the engagement, how many comments, how many shares, or how many likes they've gathered from the post. Because if I remember correctly, for Jinro, it's actually an IG Reels campaign. So I think that's important data for us to see how well the campaigns actually run by looking at the numbers of likes, shares, and also comments.
Okay. All right. Because I just remembered like Warda was actually run on the Shopee platform. I believe that the other way we can also measure the results is actually through purchases, influx, align with the influencer campaign that we actually run, or if the deliverables was actually reviews, so then there will be, more reviews instead of what they organically have. So yeah, I think just to recap whatever that you guys shared, based on, I think objective is important, target audience is important. In terms of measuring results varies according to objectives. Hope I got that right.
Yep.
Okay. So I just like to ask, like, we talk about objective, and sometimes there will be times when there is a mismatch of objectives and campaigns. So how do you actually tackle this? Like, Felicia, I want to know from the BD side of things.
So similarly, what's really important is you need to first identify what your campaign objective is prior to even launching the campaign. But of course, it's not a perfect world, right? Things will happen in between. There will be occasions where participation may be a little bit slower compared to other campaigns, and that's when we'll actually reach out to the branding campaign to discuss on the challenges and work on a solution to counter that. So for every campaigns that we run, right, there's always a dedicated account manager who will work with the brand. So the account manager would actually keep the brand updated pre-event, during event, and post-event, so that we all know we're on the same page and we're on track with the campaign.
Okay. What about your side, Ken? Because you are like the operations lead.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
think from the operations perspective, right, I think we have a set of standards to determine the performance of our ongoing campaign, like how well is this campaign doing? Is there anything we need to do to boost up the number of submissions, number of people joining the campaign? So I think some of the sample efforts that we are doing for our campaigns that are not running that well is actually I think first of all running a poll to understand why people are not joining the campaign. Is it because that the profile requirement is too niche? Is it because that the payout is too low? um Another, so we'll actually tweak it based on whatever feedback that we gotten from the influencers, and also sending out mass invitation so that everyone in the app is actually aware of, okay, there's this campaign that is happening. So I think there'll also be times where we'll suggest to the client to maybe we might need to relook into the mechanic and maybe into the payout, just to try improve the participation rate of the campaign. So I think mainly speaking, we really don't mind sitting down with the client mid of the campaign, discussing how we can actually change slightly the current campaign to actually fulfill whatever the client wants to fulfill.
Okay. I think whatever that you just Felicia and Ken, whatever that you have shared, I think it's very insightful because I think it happens and things change, right? And then outcome is not something we can control as well. So to me, I think the most important thing is communication and being responsible for the campaigns that we are actually running for the clients. Hence, being upfront to tell them if there's any campaign issues, then potentially most of the time we don't, if the objective and expectations is being set. So but if such case happen, I'm happy to hear that both basically from both BD and also operation sides, that we are actually working together to make sure that we are actually helping the brands to actually reach their KPI at the end of the day. You spoke a little bit about poll earlier, Ken, and I think for the benefit of some of the people on our platform who's actually with us today or who's going to view this video later on, right? What is this poll about, and how do you gather insights? Like you actually use them to gather insights to actually advise clients sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's more like an in-app poll. It's like a question we have for our party posters, asking them, okay, let's say we don't have a lot of people joining the campaign. We'll just ask them, why are you not interested in this campaign? So we'll give them a few options. Is it because of the payout? Is it because that the timeline is too tight? Is it because, let's say, the store location is too far from you? So these are the informations that we can gather from the poll itself. Then we'll just analyze it based on the results, and then I'll get back to the client saying that, okay, these are mainly the answers we gathered from our party posters. Why are they not joining the campaign? Can we maybe make some tweaks to it so that we can actually have more profiles joining the campaign?
Yeah, I think having the poll is very helpful as well because most of the time we are actually running the campaign in the dark. But when we actually have insights from the party posters, definitely it will be able to help us identify if there's any potential issues or potential things that they're not comfortable with doing. And hence we can actually craft out something that not only beneficial for the brand, but also beneficial for the influencers. Because ultimately at the end of the day, it's influencer marketing is definitely not a one-off. And if you were to work with a particular influencer, it could, most of the time it's actually used as a touch and go. But if you actually build make this influencer actually like your brand, for example, then they will become a loyal influencer to support your brand, at the end being a very good community, and at the end of the day, maybe driving organic contents for you as well. So what I'm trying to say is basically, knowing what influencer feel, addressing it, and also customizing it to something that they like, eventually will drive the longevity of the relationship that a brand has with an influencer. That actually moves me to my next question, which is a question I believe most people will be interested to know. Um, what is a decent budget to spend on influencer marketing? Is there a minimum budget? Felicia, I believe you get this a lot. So do you want to step in first?
There are actually a few factors to consider when you are looking at the budget. First and foremost is the product itself. Is it a very niche product? Do you require a very niche profile? The product price point as well, whether it's an expensive item, the timeline of the campaign, is it like super time sensitive? There's a promotion period you need to work within. How urgent you want the influencers to create the content and share it on the social media. So that few factors actually affect the budget. Essentially, this whole influencer campaign, right? Because it's meant to complement the entire marketing strategy. We can't put a number to the budget. We need to consider these few factors before we can actually then advise what you should be looking at.
Okay. Ken, will you have a different answer, or do you agree with what Felicia has shared?
Yeah, I think what Felicia has shared is accurate. I think whatever Felicia has shared is very on point. So I think I just want to add on a little bit also is that the budget also varies depending of the campaign type. So for example, if it's a mass campaign with an IG story reshare, right? So for about let's say 200 people. So I think it will cost probably around 4 to 5K for the entire campaign. So if let's say a different thing is that a client wants the public to try out a new launch campaign. So we always suggest the client to maybe go with the mechanic of make a purchase. So meaning getting the influencers to buy the product and try it out and maybe do a review online. So I think budget for this type of campaign will actually depend on the product price point and how many influencers are you trying to target. Yeah.
Okay. I think the whatever that you guys shared, I think the amount of effort for an influencer to actually come up with that content will also contribute to how much the payout is. Okay, like the easier campaign, like what Ken has shared earlier, the mass campaign. Obviously, it's a one step, two step kind of thing. Then obviously the pay will be lower. But for example, if a campaign that requires a little bit more effort, or creating a content from scratch, or even a video, right, not just a static or a carousel, then I believe that budget will increase because the payout for the influencer will also increase. Okay, great. So, okay, assuming now that we've touched on budget. Okay, assuming there is a brand out here who is actually new to the influencer marketing scene, how can they actually slowly include it into their marketing strategy? Felicia.
Okay, I think the key word here, what you mentioned, is include in the marketing strategy. So influencer marketing shouldn't be viewed as the only focus and only platform to for every brand to look into. In fact, most of the brands we work with actually work with various platforms and various channels together. It helps them figure out which channel works best for that specific campaign. It's like an A/B testing. And again, this is about a collective initiative, the marketing strategy, and not just one.
Okay, I think I like what you just shared because marketing, we tend to see like every initiative as a standalone. But
Yep.
if we were to look at a company's objective, basically there is a cohesive, long-term plan that we actually long-term objective that we want to reach. So every medium should be used to actually reach those KPIs, those objectives. And influencer marketing at this point, though it's booming, I agree that it's not it's not supposed to it should not be used as a standalone. It should not be used as a last minute thing that when everything fails, let's do influencer marketing. Yeah, I think a little
That's
bit
right.
more. Yeah, I think a little bit more. How to say, appreciation will be needed for the influencer marketing industry, and I think people can see it because it has been booming. It's been growing year over year, and it's a 6 trillion business, right, worldwide. So
Yep.
definitely, I think including it as part of your marketing strategy and weaving it together to make sure that your marketing promotions are even more successful and even more powerful. Okay. There are actually some questions basically talking about what if a particular brand's objective is not just online awareness. You know, how can influencer marketing help? Like more offline kind of initiative.
We can actually do both offline and online. We've actually helped some brands to drive footfalls to their events at the roadshows. We've helped brands drive purchase and dine in at the restaurants, as well as doing live stream for brands as well. We've done for, I think, uh, an example, two campaigns. One is Sheldon at Funko Fair, which they had a fair in one of the Klang Valley shopping malls over the weekend. So we helped them get people to go there and feature a live feed of them being at the fair. The other one we've done for Old Town was two campaigns. Similarly, one was to promote their express kiosk, so they had a little kiosk booth set up in one of the shopping malls as well over the weekend. And moving on to the next phase, riding on that kiosk and that campaign we did for Old Town. The other one is actually to drive people to go to the nationwide Old Town outlets to try the new menu which they've just launched. So yes, it's just not limited to online. We can actually do offline on its own or combine both offline and online together.
Okay. I believe operations, do you have something similar like this as well that you want to share?
I think it's pretty much very similar like what Felicia has mentioned, right? So we do get requests from brands saying that I have an event, offline event, can we do anything about it? So what we always suggest is that we can just get the influencers heading to the event and then post, let's say, an IG story or IG post shout out about the event so that they actually get more footfalls, more participation in the event itself. So yeah, I think it works for offline event as well, so not just for online.
Mm. Okay. And I believe the impact is not just online as well, it's also offline, creating footfall.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I think that actually moves me to my last question. So, do you think influencer marketing works? Like influencer content varies and sometimes it's not guaranteed. So how can Party Post ensure that brands have the best experiences? Felicia, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So, what influencer marketing really does is it provides the brand an opportunity to get everyday people to do word of mouth marketing for them. Typically, one tends to remember a little bit more. If my own friend tells me about this particular brand, talks about this brand, I would remember it a little bit better than a stranger who would have just casually mentioned it because there is a human element to it and it's my personal community. In terms of good experience, so normally in fact, for all campaigns that we do, right, that we run for the brand, we try to be as detailed as possible in sharing to each and every one of our influencers what they need to do to make sure that they meet the direction, highlighting the key points, the USP that the brand wants them to talk about, while keeping the content as organic as possible.
Okay. I think that is organic is the word. And because I think when it comes to influencer marketing, it's paid, but at the same time it's also organic at the same time. It's not like a billboard where, it comes fully from a brand and then they just sticker the billboard visual. But this is, I mean, in some campaign, in some types, they actually require the influencers to actually create them. Hence, there's a little bit more human touch to it, I believe. But
Yep.
Ken, what do you think? What do you think?
I think for myself, me myself, personally, I believe in influencer marketing. That's why I'm currently in this industry. So I think the main advantage I see for influencer marketing is that it actually helps brands to build trust and authority. So I think just this is the example I always use. So imagine a scenario where you see a product advertisement on, let's say, Google, on Facebook. You might be interested in the product, but you have doubts because you're not sure whether the product is good, whether the product is legit or not. Then again, another scenario is that imagine seeing an influencer that you follow or even your friends and family actually share about that product itself on their social media. So it kind of creates a sense of instant credibility for the brand that they promote. So I'll be more confident to buy a product if I see maybe one of my friends or the influencers that I follow actually promoting that product. Yeah, comparing to what I
Mm.
see from, let's say, Facebook or even Google.
I think when you talk about credibility, it's like a sense of ownership of what they share online.
Mm.
Um, because I think that is how Partipost app work as well. We do not force any particular influencers to join any particular campaign. So there are a lot of campaigns on the app, and then influencers will basically join whatever campaigns that best suited their lifestyle and best suit their interests. So hence with that, that is something that they chose. It's a brand that they like, and it's a product that they will promote to their friends and families. So hence, I think that is why influencer marketing, the industry itself, not just like in Party Post, right? The industry itself is a booming market, but if used correctly, I would just want to emphasize that as well. Yes, I think that's all for today. And that's all the questions I have for today. But I would just want to go through a few more slides, and then there are actually some questions on the floor as well. But due to limitation of time, most probably I will only go through a few. But please allow me to recap, and then we will actually come back to the Q&A in a short while. So, whatever that Felicia and Ken has just mentioned, navigating through the digital world will always be an ongoing process of trial and error. But the good news is there are new solutions that are constantly being created, especially with the help of technology, like some of the automations that we talked about earlier. And while the always growing online population presents many challenges, it offers many opportunities for real, authentic, and meaningful connections. And all it takes is actually crafting the right campaigns that will actually lead to your brands to success. I think creating authentic voices through the content that they're creating is also ultimately very important. So if you're interested to try out influencer marketing, and you want it to boost your strategies, we would love to help you craft the perfect campaign, whatever goals or budget that you have. So, please leave us a note at the end of the session, and both Felicia and Ken and team will be able to provide you with the best consultation on how you can actually achieve your overall campaign objectives. Now, last but not least, right, we will move on to the Q&A session. It has been a very fruitful Thursday, and I believe every one of you guys learned a lot today, how to come up with effective and also efficient influencer marketing campaign, and how it could be included and complemented into your other marketing initiatives for the best results. So just remember that influencer marketing should not be a standalone initiative, and it should not also be a last resort strategy to actually drive awareness. So we received some questions from the floor, and I think I will only pick 4 due to time constraint. So I guess the first question that we have is, what if our marketing objective is more than just awareness? How can we actually fit in the influencer marketing to get customers to actually purchase our product? Any one of you have an
I
answer
think,
for that?
yeah, let me answer this. I think I'll suggest to run a campaign that involves the mechanic where the party posters are required to buy and review the product. So first of all, I think the benefit here is you get the party posters will actually buy and try out the product and also promoting it on the social media, or even um leave a review on e-commerce platform like maybe Shopee and Lazada. I think by doing this, it actually builds credibility for the brand, and also it increases the likelihood of purchase from their followers and also their friends.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you, Ken. I think there's a next question as well. I think this is for Felicia. If I were to use macro influencer in my marketing campaign, would Party Post be able to help?
Yes, of course we can. And if there's a specific profile that the brand wants to use, just give us a name. We'll reach out to the profile and then speak to them about the opportunity of working with the brand. In fact, for some campaigns of the brands, right, we use all 3 tiers of influencers: nanos, micros, as well as macros. So yes, we can work with micro influencers as well.
Okay. Thank you, Felicia. Because
Welcome.
I guess from us sharing earlier, we only talk about everyday people and we didn't talk about other tiers of influencers as well. So maybe that is why some of the audience are actually wondering if we actually do help brands to actually source out for other types of influencers. So I guess that answers a lot of people's question. That we actually do cater not just to everyday people, but micro, macro, mega as well.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
I actually have this question. It's a very simple question. I'm not so sure who can answer this. So basically, in terms of engagement rates, which is better, static posts or reels?
I think there's no secret that the short form video is actually taking over social media. I think one of the studies I read previously, right, I think is basically short video is actually the most in demand type of social media content for 2022. Yeah, so I mean, to me, if you ask me, I think the static post is not far behind, but I think the content for both static posts and reels, they are quite different. I think reels is more towards creativity and the personally part following the trend, and static post is mainly when people actually post nice images, high quality photos, or even posts that you want to drive a back and forth discussion with your audience. So I think to me there isn't a right or wrong answer. It is always depending on the brand's objective at the end of the day.
Okay. But in your opinion, static posts or reels?
I would personally go with reels.
Okay. Okay. Can. What about you, Felicia? I believe you have met clients and most probably, I don't know if brands will actually ask you which one works better. What will your answer be?
Um, like Ken shared, they both have their own advantages. So if a brand is really looking at maximizing it, I would always suggest to go with both. We just have to rework it in such a way where we can fit both into their budget.
Okay. That leads to the next question. So we talk about posts, we talk about reels, right? So there was a question that said, what happens to the posted content after the campaign? Can the brand still utilize them? And if yes, for how long?
I think the answer is yes. So, if the brand wants to use the Partipost content, right, what we do is we'll normally include a clause in our TNC during the briefing stage, saying that brands will be allowed to use your content up to 6 to 12 months. Yeah, so brand can always feel free to use the content even after the campaign ended.
On any platform, on any form, like it could be digital, offline, promotional materials.
Yep,
Oh,
Only limited to digital.
correct.
only limited to digital. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
digital usage only.
Okay. All right. So, okay, I think that is all we have for today. Some of the questions, I will actually, send it over to the guest speakers and, I will need your help, Ken and Felicia to fill them in. And then we can actually include in our post report campaign, which we will actually send to all our guests today. So, I think, that will lead to the last part. So, So I just want to take this opportunity again to thank both of our guest speakers, Felicia and Ken, for taking time off their busy schedule to share such valuable gems with us. Lastly, at Post, we share the same passion for helping brands engage with audiences. If you are interested and if you have any other questions, please let us know. We'll definitely show you the way. So, well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a pleasant Thursday ahead, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, Daddy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.